Welcome to Stoughton Media Access Cable. My name is Steve Kelly, and I'm the host for your show. Today, I have the pleasure of bringing you a wonderful guest, Tracey LeBeau. Welcome to the show, Tracey.
Thank you very much.
And Tracey is a holistic health practitioner. The subject matter that I'm extremely interested in, and I'm going to let Tracey explain that. So, Tracey, right off the bat, let's jump right into the subject. What is a holistic health practitioner?
So there's a lot of different definitions for that. Holistic primarily means you're taking all modalities, all areas of your life, rather than just focusing on one. So some people will focus on diet and nutrition. Some people will focus on stress and energy. Some people will focus on exercise. But really what I do is I try to focus on the needs of the person that I'm working with. So some people are not unable to lose weight because of stress. So we want to work on diet and nutrition as well as how to reduce stress and how to reduce the effects of stress. So holistic is just an overview of looking at all the areas of your life and seeing what's out of balance and getting them back into balance.
Excellent. So the audience won't take long before they realize how passionate you are.
Right.
They're gonna be surprised. Like, oh my goodness, this lady believes so much in what she's saying. How did you become so passionate about holistic health care?
Well, it probably starts 10 years ago. I was not very balanced. I was not feeling very good. I was sick a lot. I was stressed out a lot. I was 30 pounds overweight. I was on 7 or 8 medications, everything from migraines to IBS, asthma, anxiety, all these different things. And I had never really made a connection between food, lifestyle, and health. I was always athletic, so I always thought being physically active meant I was healthy and I could eat whatever I wanted and basically do whatever I want. But I got to a point where my IBS was really bad. I tried 3 different medications, none of them worked.
Let me interrupt.
Yes.
Some in the audience don't know what IBS is. They're thinking
Irritable
it's like
bowel syndrome.
All right, so it's not a copy machine.
Right, no.
IBM. No, okay.
No, it's not IBM, no.
So irritable
bowel syndrome, which is
how common is that?
It's actually very common. Most people will relate when I say pretty much every day of my life I had gassing, bloating, cramping, was completely uncomfortable, had to be near bathrooms. It was very uncomfortable, but it was also somewhat embarrassing. So it wasn't something I wanted to talk about. By the same token, if I went out to eat, I had to go home because I didn't feel good. I had a stomachache. Okay. So, and if it wasn't that, it was a migraine.
Okay. Sounds like a husband's nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, forget that. I mean, so on top of all this other stuff, I was on the verge of a second divorce.
Oh.
And I had a pretty rough relationship with my kids. I had been through a terrible first divorce with their father. And I had a stressful job. It was just all these things climaxing, basically, to the point where I went to the doctor for my IBS, and they said, well, we can try to remove part of your intestines, and maybe that will help you. They thought maybe it was physiological. And I thought, I'm going to get back to you on that because there might be a better way. I don't know. You're not going to cut me up
unless you absolutely have to.
Right. I mean, that was a pretty serious, recommendation, pretty serious step. And at the same time, so the way the universe works in perfection is around the same time I had started doing some research between diet and autism, the autism spectrum, so autism, Asperger's, ADHD, and started to very little bit at a time learn the link between food and health and food and neurological functions and things like that. So I thought, let me see if there's a more natural way to help my IBS. And I was just focused on my IBS. Forget about the stress, forget about the 30 pounds that keeps increasing.
Yes.
You know, I was just, and long story short, by changing the lifestyle, the way I ate, the way I lived, my perspective on life, the way I interacted with other people,
yes.
rather than being victimized, feeling like I was in control of my destiny. Within less than a year, I dropped the 30 pounds, I eliminated all 8 medications, and I avoided that surgery. Wow. And I was a completely different person, and that was the beginning of a journey. So where my passion came was, I was sitting in an office with a friend of mine who's an energy healer.
Okay.
And she was part of that transition, and I just looked at her and I said, how come everyone doesn't know about this? You know, I felt so free. I felt like someone took this curtain. I was in this like dark, dank, dreary world, and someone pulled this curtain away, and there was like blue sky and green trees and running rivers.
It sounds like you could sing about it.
Right, yeah. I could, you know, and I was like, how don't people know this is there? Like they can do this, you know, and it wasn't terribly difficult, but I was ready for it. And that's really the answer.
It seems to me that the reason people don't know about it is that the whole food industry is the media control over that, the advertising control over the food industry has created messages that are faulty about what you should be eating, right? I mean, that's a great part of your resurgence in overall health has been shaped by defeating IBS through food, right? Would that be a fair, reasonable statement?
Food and stress, I would say,
okay.
Which is very closely related to my anxiety. A lot of your hormones, your mood hormones, are found in your gut rather than your head, which a lot of people don't understand. So I kind of cured everything. And actually, your body doesn't fix one thing without fixing everything else when you start to eat and live right.
Now, it sounds like you've done some studying, though. I mean, you have such surety in what you're saying, like that you had this experiment on yourself, if you would.
Right.
But then you've now backed it up. Tell me about your education. What's your educational background in all this?
So, so I started to research, you know, how can I learn more about this? I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is the largest nutrition school in the world. It's in New York City. And I was certified as a certified holistic health counselor.
Okay.
And from there, I just went really focused in on the plant-based nutrition aspect. That's what helped me, that's what worked for me, and I truly believed in the healing power of whole plant foods. So it was a gradual transition for me, but it was very insightful. So I came from 20 years in the IT industry, which is also very scientific and analytical. Okay. So I tell people I basically went from an IT geek to a nutrition geek because I love the science, I love the data, I loved learning about how food and nutrition and the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the phytonutrients, how they all work together as kind of like a symphony.
Oh, wow. So give us an example like with carrots. So carrots and onions, tell me about those, just to kind of blend what you're talking about together.
So, well, I mean, carrots, beta-carotene, good for your eyesight. What a lot of people think is that, okay, I'm going to eat carrots. I eat carrots every day, my eyes haven't changed. But what they don't realize is that if you eat carrots every day for a week, your eyes have probably been degrading for 20, 30, 40 years, you know, who knows how long. While your body is very resilient and very easy to heal, it still takes a little bit of time, right? So we don't always want to look for that quick fix. Onions, they're antibacterial, antiviral. You want to increase your immunity, start eating onions, garlic, ginger, things like that. So.
And those are all white? So there's some sort
white,
of color tricks, aren't there? Or color hints?
Yeah, there's a few little guidelines. So oranges have the beta-carotene. So they're good for eyesight, especially night vision. The whites that I just mentioned are good for antiviral, antibacterial properties. Greens, especially dark leafy greens, high in chlorophyll, which, you know, I harp on chlorophyll all the time. It's my favorite. Chlorophyll is my favorite thing in the whole world.
Okay. Tell us why.
Well, here's an example. Everyone has seen the commercial for the scrubbing bubbles, right?
Okay.
Chlorophyll are the scrubbing bubbles for your arteries. They're scrubbing your blood clean. They're bringing oxygen, they're bringing fresh nutrients to your blood, and they're helping to get rid of the old stuff. Have a lot of cancer-fighting properties. They're so close to your blood. There's a 1 atom difference between blood and chlorophyll. So where chlorophyll has 1 atom of magnesium, blood has 1 atom of iron. So it's very, very good for keeping our blood healthy, keeping our blood flowing, and bringing everything we need throughout our body, through our blood system.
So what foods would we find chlorophyll in?
Basically anything green has chlorophyll in it. However, dark leafy vegetables such as kale, collard, spinach, bok choy, Swiss chard, the dark leafy greens seem to be much higher in chlorophyll than some of the others. Broccoli is also high. But yeah, really what I tell people is, you're hearing me kind of talk about all these different colors and the different benefits they each have. You want to eat a lot of different colors every day. You want to see a rainbow in every meal, basically.
Okay, what about that meat eater that's in the background going, I like my steak? What about that person?
You know, meat eating is a choice. I don't set out to convert everybody to be whole plant-based. However, I do talk about the benefits, and I do try to at least promote adding as many fruits and vegetables and whole grains to your diet as possible. So while I believe eating whole plant-based is best for a myriad of reasons, I took the Cornell certification in whole plant-based nutrition. I've taken the certification by the Physicians Committee of Responsible Medicine on whole plant-based cooking and nutrition. There's a lot of benefits. I can go into studies that have been done between animal protein and plant protein, how it feeds, animal protein definitely feeds tumors.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
I think in preparation for the show we had talked, and you had a claim, and you can't really back this one up, but it really drew my interest. You said that you think that perhaps people have had, everyone sort of by a given age has had cancer 7 or 8 times whether or not they know it.
Right.
Almost that like your body has been fighting off this thing called cancer, and sometimes successfully, and when it's unsuccessful,
right,
then we hear about it. So
right,
tell me a little bit about that.
So a lot of the way I promote, so now I don't use, you notice I don't use the word vegan. So
okay,
while my lifestyle and my teachings fit into the vegan category.
Well, let me back you up, because there are people, those in the audience who, this is a new word.
Right,
okay. So maybe
it's not from the planet Vega.
Okay. Not from
and I
Vega.
stole that joke from someone else.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about, let's set a framework for understanding eating.
Sure. So someone who is a vegetarian, there could be many variations of vegetarian. And the bottom line is that vegetarians eliminate some form of food groups, primarily from the animal food group. So a vegetarian might not eat red meat or poultry, but they may eat fish. Or they might not eat any flesh, but they'll eat eggs and cheese or eggs and dairy. Or they may just eat eggs and no dairy. So there's a few variations. Vegan is what's known as the most strict vegetarian, basically. So we don't eat anything that comes from an animal. So we don't eat eggs, we don't eat dairy, we don't eat cheese, we don't eat meat, poultry, fish, or anything that comes from an animal. So there's a lot of reasons. Like for me, it was primary health related. Since then, over the last 10 years, it has become more so related to the environment and compassion side of eating whole plant-based than it was in the beginning, but it's still primarily health related. You only get cholesterol from animal-based products. You will not get any cholesterol from plant-based products. You get plenty of protein from animal-based. 2 of the most common questions and primary concerns for everybody, concern for my health, is where do you get your protein?
Yep.
And where do you get your calcium?
Okay.
And you can get plenty of protein from greens and beans, as well as calcium. So if you're including beans, legumes, dark leafy greens, as well as nuts and seeds, if you can eat nuts, some people are allergic to them, but you're getting plenty of protein and calcium that you need to be strong. And even athletes will come up to me and say, well, I don't know if I'm getting enough protein. And I tell them, we as a society get too much protein and not enough fiber. So by significantly increasing your fruits and vegetables, you're automatically or unconsciously reducing the amount of animal products you're eating. So you're reducing the cholesterol and you're increasing the plant-based proteins and calciums, which is more easily absorbed by your body as well.
So relate that to me with cancer. Like what is
So
that doing
right,
for
so
cancer?
going back to cancer, so here's an example. What I meant was your body fights off cancer several times over your lifetime. When you are exposed to any kind of ingredient, item, nutrient, not really nutrient, but something that your body does not recognize.
Okay.
So artificial colors, artificial flavors, isolated protein. So like, really cheese is an isolated nutrient. It's an isolated protein, isolated cholesterol. Anytime you're exposing your body to something that it's not familiar with, it's not programmed basically to process, something out of what it's supposed to do gets done with that thing. So for example, artificial anything, you name it, colors, flavors, preservatives, anything like that. Your body is like, I don't know what to do with this. So it's not going to do anything good. Sometimes it will eliminate it. Sometimes it will store it in your fat cells, which is a huge reason why people have a hard time losing weight if they're eating a lot of processed foods.
Maybe you could just repeat that, because that is, that seems critical. We're an obese society, myself included, I would say. I haven't done a good job over my life getting to a trimmer place. So one of the reasons you think might be, again?
Most man-made chemicals are fat soluble. So your body's dealing with toxins all the time, things that it doesn't recognize, and it's trying to metabolize them and eliminate them. Sometimes your body, just like changing the oil in your car, just by the systems in your body, it produces toxins and it needs to eliminate them. Most of those are water soluble, so they're easily eliminated, more easily eliminated. Man-made chemicals are mostly fat soluble. So your body's protection mechanism is basically to shove them in your fat cells so that they're not damaging your body, they're not wreaking havoc and causing chaos. So by the same token, they are much harder to draw out of your body and eliminate because they're fat soluble. So there are a lot of people who may try lots of different diets, but for example, they're using artificial sweeteners to reduce the amount of calories in regular sugar. Well, those artificial sweeteners are, guess what, man-made chemicals. So they're adding to the load on your fat cells, and you're still not losing weight. So diet sodas, soft drinks, sugar-free cookies, things like that, sugar-free.
What about like Gatorade, stuff like that?
Gatorade, there's a lot of artificial colors, flavors, things like that. I tell people, if you really need electrolytes, use coconut water. It's the closest thing to your own body's electrolytes that you can come to. It's almost identical. As a matter of fact,
you don't own stock in a coconut oil
I do not
company,
own
right?
any stock in coconut water.
Right?
I won't even tell you there's one better than the other as far as brands, but I will tell you that in World War II, they actually used coconut water as plasma transfusions. That's how close it is to your natural biology.
So here's a prop for you then.
So
you can just kind of...
here's coconut water. So this one is plain coconut water, unsweetened. It only has whatever natural sugars are in it. High in potassium, high in electrolytes. It's going to replenish you much better than some of those sports drinks that are out there. There's no artificial flavors, no artificial colors, no artificial flavorings. Even if it says natural flavorings, that doesn't mean it's natural. Don't believe the labels. It could be like 0.6% natural and the rest of it's artificial for them to be able to say it's natural. Wow. So that's another whole topic of reading labels. So there's this kind that will come in the packages, it'll come sealed, and then there are some that will come raw. So they're not pasteurized or heated, so they have even more enzymes and nutrients in them.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between raw and natural and then organic and things like that for us?
Yeah, so it can be very confusing on labels and reading labels and things like that. So raw is just anything that's not heated past 118 degrees. So the idea being that at 118 degrees, you start to degrade the nutrition density in a particular food, primarily plant-based foods. So you want to add a good amount of raw fruits and vegetables to your diet. If you're not used to eating raw vegetables, you want to do that slowly because your body needs to adjust to it. Just like adding beans, you want to do that slowly. Start with smaller beans, maybe every other day, every 2 days, depending on where you're at.
Depending on where you want to increase your flatulence?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much your body does get used to it, but it just takes a little while because it's like, hey, never had this much nutrition.
Let me just interrupt you for a sec. Roy, and by the way, thank you to Roy Cohen, who's our producer, and Leo McGowan, who's our cameraman. I'm wondering, Roy, could you put Tracey's information up on the screen for us? It will be nice that people who are very interested, and I'm sure there are a few in the audience, Tracey LeBeau. She's a holistic health practitioner. Her email is TraceyLeBeau. I'm sorry, that's her website, TraceyLeBeau.com. And her email is support@TraceyLeBeau.com. And you can actually, she's one of the kind of the nice business people that I've met. You can actually call her. So here's her real number, 401-527-0281. And I like her little byline, which is Eat, Think, Live in Pure Harmony. So how did you, now that people are going to be able to get in touch with you to get more information from you, how did you come up with Eat, Live,
Eat, Think, Live.
Eat, Think, Live in Pure Harmony?
So coming up, as you might be able to relate to, coming up with the name of a company is quite daunting and stressful. In Pure Harmony is actually the name of my company, In Pure Harmony LLC. And over the last few years, I've brought on a lot of other modalities into my practice. So I took yoga training, I took Reiki, I'm a Reiki 2 practitioner, I'm taking energy medicine certification, and I wanted to wrap all of that in because, as I said, it's not all about what you eat. You can eat all the broccoli in the world, and if you're stressed out or you have no self-confidence or you're constantly feeling like the world's about to, cave in on you, then all the broccoli in the world's not going to help. Your body's in constant flight stress mode. It's constantly producing too much cortisol. It's constantly shutting down your digestive and metabolic processes when you're in stress mode. So if you're eating all the broccoli in the world, you're still not getting everything you need to get out of it. So I wanted to wrap all of that in. I wanted to think, okay, how can I say this? And it really comes down to the way you eat, the way you think, and the way you live all affects your health and your wellness and your well-being, basically. Wow. People will look at me sometimes and say, I don't know how you eat that way, or I don't know how you can live that way. And I feel more free now than I have ever felt in my life. It is amazing freedom when you get to choose how you feel and how you live.
Wow.
And
you described that you came from sort of a low point in your life and reshaped your entire life to a point that is so diametrically opposed.
Absolutely.
So successful, cheerful, energetic.
Right.
Now, there's a question for you. Someone like myself, I do a lot of exercise. Is there enough energy in the food that you're recommending in this diet mechanism to allow me to, say, run 6 miles in the morning and then bike 20 miles in the afternoon? So
absolutely. You're going to get more nutrition, more fiber, which you need to sustain your energy, in the whole plant-based foods than when you're eating more refined foods. So I think I was having this conversation with someone. If you take a refined pasta or bread or something heavily laden with cholesterol, say eggs and toast and bacon, there's a lot of saturated fat. There is protein, but there's also fat, cholesterol, refined carbohydrates, which are going to be processed quickly in your bloodstream, high glycemic index. So while you may get some energy immediately, that energy is going to spike up and spike right back down again, because once it's processed, your body's done with it. Whereas when you're adding a lot more fiber, a lot more vitamins and minerals and nutrients, your body's saying it's slowly processing it. So you're boosting your metabolism because it takes more energy to process the fiber. It takes longer, so you have more sustained energy. So you're not having those spikes and dips. You're having balanced energy longer throughout the day.
Now, diabetes. Talk about diabetes in relation to what what you are recommending as a program of wellness.
Sure. Yeah, I've worked with several clients with diabetes. In fact, I've had one client brought A1C, which is a pretty common indicator test for type 2 diabetes. It's A1C. It's bringing it down, 3 and 4 points. I've had another client bring hers down a couple of points. I've had people bring triglycerides down over 100 points, cholesterol over 150 points.
150 points of cholesterol?
Yeah.
You'd be down to 0.
Yeah. Well, it depends where you're starting. So diabetes, for the longest time, we were focused on carbohydrates and sugars when it comes to diabetes. But really what's happening with diabetes is that the insulin needs to bring the glucose into your body. So the insulin's kind of like a key for your cells. It unlocks the key and allows the glucose as well as all the other nutrients to get into your cells, your muscle cells, say. And what happens is that if you have too much fat and cholesterol in your body or in your diet, those keyholes basically get gummed up and they get stuck. As well as you have mitochondria in the cell. I might be getting a little too scientific,
no,
so
it's
I
okay.
apologize.
We have a smart audience.
Good.
No, you run with this. This is great.
So there's these things called mitochondria within each cell that are supposed to destroy all the lipids and keep them balanced, keep them at bay, and keep them under control. But if we have too much and we don't have the glucose and the other things getting into our cells that we need to strengthen that mitochondria and keep them at bay, then the lipids get to be too much. And that's when we start to flood our bloodstream with glucose and insulin. And that's why a whole plant-based diet with low sugar, low oils, using that prescription, we're able to reduce the amount of lipids in our body, reduce the amount of cholesterol, unclog. So we're not just unclogging our arteries, but we're unclogging all of those individual cells and allowing the glucose to freely get in, more easily.
And would that then translate, do you think, to weight loss? That
Absolutely.
would then help the diabetes? Is that
Absolutely.
the idea?
So it's kind of like a domino effect, right? So you're bringing your glucose levels down because they're more balanced. You're bringing your weight down because you're not eating as much fat, cholesterol, and sugar. And so they're kind of feeding each other. And by the same token, they're finding many more people now with type 2 diabetes, also with heart disease not far behind. And actually, when you're talking about type 2 diabetes in this country, with all the refined foods that we have, with all of the high fat content and artificial ingredients we have, there's been a statistic from the CDC that says any child born after the year 2000 has a 1 in 3 chance of having type 2 diabetes in their lifetime. So it's a pretty serious message. And to me, it's a pretty strong message to tell us we need to do something different in what we're eating.
I'm glad you said that about children. You have kids.
I have kids.
Are they miserable eating your food?
They are not miserable.
Okay.
They don't eat a whole lot of it. They're 19 and 23.
Okay.
So unfortunately, when I started my journey down my path, they were middle schoolish.
Yeah.
It was a very tough time to say to them,
Time
you
to
have
change
you have to stop eating meat.
Yeah.
So while I did a total transformation of my house, I mean, I threw away everything that had chemicals, artificial, anything in it, started buying organic, preservatives. Yeah. I mean, my husband was even like, what is wrong with you? We're spending all this money on organics. I'm like, yeah, because it's important, So they listen, they understand, but they're still teenagers. So they're still young adults and teenagers. And
yeah.
I wasn't ready to hear the message at 19 and 23 either. So I do believe that everybody hears the message when they're ready to hear it. And they do, they know there are certain times where they need to start cutting down. They've kind of gotten off balance with what they're eating, and they notice it physically. So they're much more in tune with their body and the reaction to foods than I was at that age. And they tell everybody else how they should be eating. So they know the information, and they may not be as strict as me, but they're definitely much healthier than I was at that age.
Wow. And it's nice that you create room for other people. I could see almost this image of warring potatoes or something, renegade vegetarians or vegans. So it's nice that you can say, each person has a time to come across information that they feel can help them, or a diet that can help them, or a stress relief program.
Right.
So I think that's nice. I digressed and got you off of a topic that's truly important, in the idea of organics and raw.
Right.
I actually think they're different topics altogether, but raw food versus processed food. So someone might get raw tomatoes and they might get diced tomatoes in a can or diced tomatoes in a jar. So maybe we can go down that path for a minute.
Sure. So if we just use that example of tomatoes, there's a lot of different things I'm going to touch upon here. One of them is as soon as you pick something off of the plant, it starts to lose its nutrition value. So you pick it, you cut it, you store it, it's losing nutritional value. Still much better than not eating it at all. I'm going to preface that.
Okay.
It's always important to eat vegetables, whether you cook them, fry them, grill. It's still better than not eating them at all. Okay. But if you really want to get into the nitty gritty, the closer to the original whole format of the food you can eat it, the better. The sooner off the vine or off the plant you can eat it, the better. When it comes to canned anything, not just tomatoes, I'll get to tomatoes in a second, but canned anything, you want to watch for BPA linings in cans. A lot of canned linings have plastic lining, bisphenol A.
Okay.
And it's been known to be a very strong carcinogen and contributes to cancer. As a matter of fact, there are leading oncologists that will not eat canned tomatoes. And the reason being is that tomatoes are acidic by nature, and they actually draw the chemicals out, the carcinogens out of the plastic and the lining. So I do tell my clients, when I work with them, when I do shopping tours with them, I do tell them, if there's something you're going to spend a little bit more money on, buy jarred tomatoes or make your own.
So glass.
Glass, yeah.
So glass is a better
Glass
container.
is definitely a
So
better
write this down,
option.
audience. This is a good hint for you.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so
because a lot of people think those stains in their Tupperware and their Rubbermaids are just stains, but they're really not. Those are the tomatoes actually melting into the plastic and bringing it into your food. So the acidity is going to go into your fat cells. Exactly. You're paying attention.
Yes.
Awesome.
That's what I get paid the big bucks for.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, you want to do a little bit at a time. We're talking about a lot of stuff here. So while I did a very drastic change, not everybody can do that. It's not easy. You want to make one change, every couple weeks or whatever.
All right, so let's talk about some changes that someone that is very interested in. I have to think that if I'm in this audience, I'm very interested in eating better, living better, more stress-free, and how food affects me. So what are some changes that people could make? Like if I said to you, I only want 3 things because if I get more than that, I'm overwhelmed.
Right. So here's 3 things you can do. So I'm going to walk you through, 3 or 4. We'll try to do 3. We have time. The first thing is about nutrition. Okay. So when talking earlier, your body is very much, we are a rush society. We're in a hurry. Being in a hurry and being rushed puts us in a stress state, puts our body in fight or flight. When we're in that state, we're not absorbing the nutrition that we need. So if you think about, are you eating French fries and pizza, or are you eating beans and greens? If you're only taking in a fraction because you're under a stress state pretty regularly, you're not getting much nutrition from the French fries and pizza, right? So one thing I tell people immediately is to add dark leafy greens. Even if you don't take anything away, you don't change anything else, add dark leafy greens to your daily regimen, however you can.
An example again, dark leafy greens are
collard,
kale.
spinach, Swiss chard, bok choy, arugula, and any of those
So all
herbs.
salad things?
There's salad, they can be sauteed. Some of them are a little too fibrous. The kale and the Swiss chard, you may want to either really quick flash in boiling hot water, or you may want to cook them, soften them up a little bit, yeah. But yeah, any of those dark salad greens, any kind of dark green herbs, so your parsleys, your cilantros, your dill, your mint, add them, try adding them to a salad. Try adding parsley or basil to your salad. Adds a really nice flavor, and it's adding, some extra nutritional value as well. Nutrition density per calorie is very high in vegetables.
That reminds me. There's some sort of a scale called ANDI, is it? ANDI?
Yeah.
ANDI? Okay, what is that scale?
So that's something that Dr. Joel Fuhrman came up with.
Okay.
And that is basically a scale of the nutrition density per calorie in all different kinds of foods. So I believe at Whole Foods they have cards that list the top 30 or something like that.
Okay.
But you could go
Top
to
30 foods with
top
the
30
greatest
Andy scores.
nutritional
Right.
value per calorie.
Per calorie.
Not per, of density.
Nutritional density per calorie
Okay.
of food. So for
I'm gonna take
every
your word for it.
calorie of kale,
Okay.
how much nutrition is in there versus every calorie of olive oil.
Okay.
So for example, some people find it surprising that olive oil is pretty low on the scale.
Low is bad.
Low is less nutrition, right?
Okay.
So while there's some nutritional value in olive oil, it's also very high in fat. So you want to...
and therefore calories?
and therefore calories,
Okay.
yes. So you want to look for anything that is, again, going back to raw vegetables are going to score the highest. So your kale is at 1,000. That's the highest score you can get on the Andy rating. And you work your way down. So all of those dark leafy greens are going to score pretty high, 1,000, 800s, 900s range.
Give me an example of a 50 score, let's say. What are things that score 50 that someone might commonly eat?
Oh, goodness.
Would like French fries score 0 or?
They'd be pretty low. Yeah, they'd be pretty low.
Pizza?
Yeah, pizza would be pretty low. Although, no, I won't even go down that scale. Yeah, I know some people think of pizza as a vegetable now because it has tomatoes on it.
No.
I don't.
We don't look at
I
pizza as
don't.
a vegetable. No.
Yeah, I mean anything that's refined, anything that's been processed, anything that's in a box, a package, a wrapper,
Yeah.
has probably been processed, you know. So you want to stay away from those kinds of things. You want to spend a bulk of your time in the produce section or the bulk aisle.
So
when you go to the
one of
market.
things, so going back to the 3 things that you wanted to say. So the
Okay, so the first thing is adding dark leafy greens.
Okay.
Okay. The second thing is I'm going to go to stress. So going back to stress, your body being in constant fight or flight. So when your body's in stress mode, which can be you're in traffic, you're fighting with your boss, you're being chased by a lion, your body has no...
It happens to me all the time, you know. You'd be surprised.
You know, it actually does because your body doesn't know the difference between those 3. It has no idea. It doesn't know that it's being chased for life or death or, by a lion, or is someone just screaming at me and I'm letting it get to me. The cortisol levels are up, my heartbeat's up, my blood pressure's up, I'm in defense mode. So all the blood's going to your extremities so you can move fast and to your brain so it can think fast. So guess what's not being done when you're about to sit down and eat that lunch? You're not digesting, you're not metabolizing, you're not assimilating nutrients. Your body's like, well, that's secondary to living,
Okay.
to staying
So
alive
it's very
right
natural. What you're sort of doing, as I'm reading into this, is you're explaining how the body's working or working against
Right.
your food habits as it relates to stress.
Exactly. So while you're adding more fruits and vegetables, to be able to maximize assimilating those nutrients and the benefits of that nutritional value, is you can actually trick your body into thinking it's not stressed and put it back into the rest and digest state. So, for example, if you just say the word relax.
Relax.
Just saying that word, what does it do?
Relax. Relax. Well, it must put the idea into your head, I'm thinking, just that there's another place that you can be other than stress.
Right. So just saying the word relax will help you. But there's something a little bit more we can do. So if you are about to sit down and eat a meal, good or bad, doesn't matter. Hopefully it's better. It's better now that you're adding your greens.
Yes.
You're going to ask yourself, am I in a stress state or am I in a relaxed state? And if the answer is stress, then you're going to sit and you're going to take some deep breaths. So you're going to breathe in really deep, fill up your stomach, hold it for a few seconds, and then release it really slowly and push it all the way out. And if you do that 8 to 10 times, it takes like 2 minutes. Your brain is now saying, I thought I was really stressed out, but my heartbeat went down, my heartbeat slowed down, my blood pressure slowed down, the cortisol levels, backtracked, and I must not be stressed anymore. Now I can metabolize and digest the food that I'm going to bring into my body.
So that's trick number 2 is to do some deep breathing as you sit down before you eat.
Correct.
And with the presumption that you might be rushing to get to your kid's soccer game or your own second job,
Right.
or you know, even to watch your favorite program that you're just trying to
Right.
gobble up some food.
So again, it's 2 minutes, you know, so if you can start making that small change of adding 2 minutes to your eating, slowing down, you know, sit down instead of standing. If you take a 10-minute lunch, take a 15-minute lunch and just breathe for a couple minutes.
Okay, good. So that's the first trick is to add some leafy greens. The second is to do some relaxing with some breathing. What else you have up your sleeve that you can share?
Okay, so a couple more things. We can talk about 2 more things. So between nutrition and stress reduction, we have toxicity. So we're exposed to toxins all the time through our food, through the things we put on our body, and through the environment, through the air. So what we want to do is we want to reduce the exposure to our body. Here's what's happening. The average woman, for example, puts 250 chemicals on her body every day. So it's not just the insecticides and pesticides on our non-organic foods. It's the lotions, it's the shampoos, it's the toothpaste, it's everything that we're putting on ourselves. We're putting a load on our body such that, and I don't know if you've ever seen the I Love Lucy episode, but I use this example frequently where they're working on an assembly line for candy and they have to box up chocolates, and it starts out slow. So they're like, you know, this is easy, but then they gradually increase the speed.
Of the conveyor belt, yes.
Right, the conveyor belt. So then they're like shoving it in their hat, they're shoving it in their shirt, they're trying to eat it. Well, this is what your body's doing with toxins. It's saying, hey, I can't metabolize these anymore. I can't handle all of these. So that is what translates into 20 or 30 years of being backed up, turns into inflammation, diabetes, you know, free radicals contributing to cancer tumors, things like that. Your body just, it can't keep up anymore. So you want to reduce that exposure to your body. So by eating, drinking more water is going to help eliminate it. Eating those dark leafy greens, one of the things that's going to happen in those dark leafy greens is those antioxidants are going to bind to those toxins that have been locked up in your fat cells, and it's going to draw them out like a magnet. And then drinking the water is going to help to remove them and eliminate them from your body. So you want to start looking at toxicity levels of other products that you're using besides food. There's a really great website, and I didn't bring it with me today, but it's called the Environmental Working Group. Okay. And they have a couple of resources that I use all the time with clients. One is they have the Dirty Dozen and the Top Clean 15. So if you look at the Dirty Dozen, those are the top 12 most contaminated fruits and vegetables that you can buy if you're buying non-organic. So apples. I always use the example of apples because it's usually number 1 on that list, and we eat them every day. So if something's on the top 12 list and you eat it pretty regularly, you want to buy organic. If there's something on the Clean 15, say an onion, but you eat it every day, it's probably not as bad. And if there's something that you eat even less, say you only eat onions once a week or once a month, it's probably okay not to eat it organic once in a while. The whole idea is to reduce the total exposure to your body so it doesn't have to get backed up and fall behind. And then in terms of health and beauty products, you want to look on the Environmental Working Group's Skin Deep Cosmetics database. And they rate products from 0 to 10 on toxicity levels. And they'll tell you all the ingredients that are in there, the triclosan in antibacterials, the phthalates that are in fragrance, the parabens that are, you know, again, going to go make a home in your fat cells. And they're going to tell you what your product is rated. So what I tell people is they kind of break it up into green, yellow, red. If you want to start transitioning, start getting rid of those products in your home that are red. And again, reducing that overall exposure. So just a little plug.
Of a couple of reds that you would want to get rid of.
Well, anything that has fragrance in it. Anything that has fragrance in it is probably going to put something up. But for example, all the antibacterial products that you use, the soaps, the hand sanitizers, you know, the dishwashing, the household all-purpose cleaners.
So we're going to have a dirty house then. We'll be infected by bacteria if we get rid of all the
There are actually lots of
there
are lots of do-it-yourself recipes that I use. I will use with clients, or that you can find on the internet. for creating your own cleaning products. I use a product called Ava Anderson. So you could actually go to my website, and I have a link to Ava Anderson. All her products are 0, some are 1, and that's about the highest. And actually, you know, just to give a little extra plug, if they find something that comes out in new research that bumps it above that 0 or 1, they'll reformulate their whole product. So, so it's a very high quality product, and it's very low toxicity. So you want to look at things like that and start transitioning not only the food, but the things that you're using, the cleaning agents and things like that. So
now I have to describe a curious situation. I had a friend, and he went to a seminar. He's going to become a priest, and he lasted about 3 years. And he said, by the time I come out of that seminar, he says, I could smell a woman three miles away. So what about the women who use a lot of fragrance to smell good? I mean, they like perfume.
There are lots of essential oils. So, I mean, most perfume scents originate from something real, like a flower or some other natural fragrance, right? But we have to duplicate it and make it really cheap and make a lot of it. We create chemicals so that, you know, it's much easier and cheaper to make. So there's a lot of essential oils. There's a lot of perfumes made with essential oils. You can find aromatherapy a lot of times. We'll sell air fresheners, things like that, made with essential oils. So you know, that's the base of all real natural fragrance.
So lilacs smell really, really strongly, as I recall, right? Mm-hmm. So if a woman wanted to, could she grab some lilacs and rub her on her skin for the day? I mean, would you say that's natural? Or? It's
totally natural, and she could do it. I've never tried that. I've never gone that route. Right. But yeah, sure. She could definitely do that. Yeah.
Right. So what about the difference between a man and a woman in this process of toxicity? Are there things that men should look out for differently, or?
Yes, and I would say no. You know, there are different things. For example, there's been a lot of news coming out recently about, not totally recently, the last few years, about the link between breast cancer and deodorants because of the toxins that are in antiperspirants. They're actually blocking your body from sweating, and sweating is a way of eliminating toxins from your body. Right. So by transitioning to deodorants, you're reducing your chance of buildup of toxicity in your lymphs right next to your breasts, which is where a lot of...
Transferring to deodorant? What do you mean by that?
So deodorant is just a scent. So it helps to dissolve or cover up odor, where antiperspirant actually stops your body from doing its function of perspiring. Okay. So it's kind of like sticking a plug in all your
another little
perspiration ducts.
That you're getting, yeah.
Right. So, and to be honest, I had this conversation with someone the other day. The better you're eating and the less all these other things you're eating, the less your body odor is going to have, you know, an offensive odor, shall we say.
Yeah, okay. I need some of that because I have plenty of that, it seems.
I mean, you know, we're meant to smell like us, like people.
And that's okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, when you, what would you say you appreciate the most about your lifestyle change? Like your own personal appreciation of
It's funny because you asked me this the other day, and initially my immediate reaction was I just feel good, and that's the hardest thing for people to grasp and the easiest way for me to explain it. But it's really what I explained earlier. I now feel like I have a freedom of being who I am on the inside, on the outside, which I did not have before. I am free to choose what makes me feel good and what I feel is going to bring me joy, because when I do that, I can bring others joy and compassion and love. And that's been the biggest change. I used to be one of those people that would be like, oh God, that person's so happy, makes me sick. And now I'm one of those people that are so happy. They're like, okay, enough already, you know. You know, so it's a genuine feeling of freedom and just, you know, love of life is what it is.
Roy, could you put up Tracey's information and we'll do the credits? And okay, so Tracey LeBeau has been our guest. I think personally she's done a fantastic job of explaining holistic living and holistic eating. And you can check her website out at TraceyLeBeau.com. You can also email her at support@TraceyLeBeau.com. And you can call her at 401-527-0281. Eat, Think, Live in Pure Harmony. And one of the harmonic things that I need to do for this show is to thank Leo McGowan, who is our steadfast cameraman. Also, we've got Mike Hammond, who's working technically for us in the background, as is Dave Young, and Roy Cohen, our producer. So let's see some credits up there, Roy. The Stoughton Farmers Market, that is at Trackside Plaza at 2 Canton Street in Stoughton, www.stoughtonfarmersmarket.com, also on Facebook on the same, Stoughton Farmers Market. That starts Saturdays, June through October. It'll be 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can call and you'll talk to Teresa Tapper, the manager of the Stoughton Farmers Market, at 781-341-2252, extension 9453. And I'll give a quick explanation that the YMCA started an initiative with the Stoughton Farmers Market, and that was called Pioneering Healthy Communities, which is what the Farmers Market offshoots from. And one of the things that you can do is you're not only going to get all of the kale and the cabbage and the leafy greens that Tracey's talking about, but you're also going to get an opportunity to do some walking, part of the wellness that we talked about, because the Farmers Market this year is offering a walking tour of downtown businesses, and each of the businesses that are participating has installed a toy train for your amusement and your children's fun. So you'll be able to go do that. And the first 250 participants, Walgreens has been kind enough to offer a pedometer to those people. And if you get stamped at those locations, 10 of the 15 locations that have toy trains, you will then come back to the farmers market and be entitled to select produce. I think the very initial group will be spinach that's free. There'll be some corn later in the season and some other things. So that all ties into the wellness that we're working with Tracey LeBeau on. And now we'll run some more of the credits. So Roy will come up with, and the crew, and we have Leo, and Tracey can help us, would like to thank, with 3 M's, Maxie's Delicatessen at 117 Sharon Street for supporting us so well in Stoughton. 781-341-1662. Thank you to Maxie's. The American Cancer Society is looking for volunteers to drive cancer patients to and from treatments. 1-800-ACS-6662. By the way, I've never liked putting the letters in ACS. I'd rather have the numbers. I don't know about you guys. So you can continue to roll. I just want to make that editorial comment on the credits. www.cancer.org. And then we have Ilsa Mark's Food Pantry and St. Anthony's Free Market, First United Methodist Church. For more information, call Christine Gallagher, 781-341-0611, 781-341-0549. We also have Meals on Wheels, and I understand that we need some drivers, somebody that can come in the morning, come in the night, pack up your station wagon, pack up your trunk, and go deliver some wonderful Meals on Wheels to seniors and others who might need the help at this particular time. And you can call Jessica, 781-344-8882. She, an extension to, she will be resoundingly in pure harmony if you will call her to help out with that. So we also want to thank the Stoughton Penny Saver, and Stoughton Penny Saver has been very supportive. Their business is advertising your business, which I think is an interesting byline. 27 Rose Glen Street in Stoughton, 781-344-4833. Say hi to Alda for me. Roy Cohen produces, along with Mike Hammond and Dave Young, I think also occasionally, produce the International Forum Show. And we use Skype to interview people that are overseas in other countries and even in our own country far away. Sundays at 2 p.m., Monday at 11 p.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., Saturdays at 12 noon, Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 28. And I might add, that's an award-winning show. We're going to see the International Forum winning awards for the wonderful work that's done there, along with the Community Forum. So the show times for Community Forum, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, wonderful times at 6 p.m., Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 5 p.m. And remember at 6 p.m. to take breaths for 2 minutes, deep breaths all the way in, all the way out, and make sure that you get all the right foods in. Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 28. Comments, suggestions, feedback. Tell us what we're doing. Are we doing okay? communityforum1@yahoo.com. Same for Eastern, by the way. And the Eastern show times, Monday at 9 p.m., Tuesday at 8 a.m. Start your day with Community Forum. I like that. We should have a little promo. Friday at 4 p.m., Saturday at 3 p.m., Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 22. Okay, and now we're back with Tracey. She's had a minute to gather herself, and we have a few minutes left. I'm wondering, Tracey, are there some things that you wanted to hit on that we hadn't really focused on that you'd like the audience to know?
Yeah, this, just the last piece, what I had mentioned a little ways back in the beginning of the conversation was about energy medicine. So, as we're talking about stress, there are ways to help to balance our energy systems in our body to help relieve that stress as well. So, for example, we have meridians, which are the lines of energy going through our body that acupuncturists use. So there's all different acupressure points that they use for the needles, but you can actually, there's a few things you can do to balance those systems without using needles.
Okay.
So, for example, there's a meridian called the triple warmer. Triple warmer is responsible for that fight or flight response, so getting your defenses up and protecting you. So just by tracing that meridian every day, you can help to keep it in balance. And then there are other things that I would do in my practice if someone excuse me, was under a lot of stress, where we would actually sedate a really overactive triple warmer meridian. So I just wanted to throw that in there. That
what's the triple? Tell us a little bit more. What is the triple? Where is that? Is it on your arm? Is it,
yeah. You want to stand up?
Sure.
I'm going to trace your triple warmer meridian right now.
All right.
Okay.
So do I turn around
Move
or
this a little bit?
Okay.
How much time we have?
Yeah,
okay. So I'm going to have you hold your hands just like this.
Yep.
And triple warmer meridian starts right here, the lateral aspect of your fourth finger,
yep.
And it goes right up here, and it goes through the middle of your arm, and it's going to go here, and it's going to go up the back, and then it's just going to go down a little bit and up over here, up to the bottom of your ear, around your ear, and then to your eyebrow. So what we did was we just traced that meridian.
Yes.
So if there's any blockages, any stagnancy, doing that kind of on a regular basis is going to help to bring it into balance or keep it into balance.
So you put your hands out then. So I'm going to do this like this, and
Yep.
I'm going to go along.
Yep.
And down.
Yep. Around up to the elbow and then back.
The top of the elbow.
Yep.
Out
and
to
then
the
back.
outside.
Outside. Yep.
Up. Under your neck.
Yep. Up to the under the ear. Around the ears.
Around the ear.
Yep. And then up to the eyebrow.
Up to the eyebrow and just wait.
Yep. And just stop.
And then that's going to relax you and relax me.
Yep. And that covers all the points on your triple warmer meridian.
Wonderful! What a great little exercise that someone can do.
Yeah.
So that's
easy,
wonderful. So I want to take a minute to again thank the volunteers who have working behind the scenes, as well as those the paid professionals. I hope you've enjoyed our show with Tracey LeBeau. Obviously a wonderfully learned, holistic practitioner with a lot to offer and a lot of insight. And if your diet isn't what it should be, here's your chance to make some changes, and perhaps you can give Tracey a call.